Okay, so for conformity with risky actions, B.J. Casey, who is a professor at Yale University in the Department of Psychology, states that the teenage brain is all gas and no brakes. Backed up by this, Colin Renninger, who works at the University of Michigan with teaching family training, says that the prefrontal cortex in the front of your brain is not fully developed. Because of this, the brain of humans develops from the back to the front. This means that the prefrontal cortex that decides decision-making with risky tasks is not fully developed for teenagers, leading them to, commit these risky actions. Lawrence Steinberg, a professor at Temple University, held a study where they found that teenage drivers with their peers in the car drove 3 times more reckless than what was normal. This was through maybe not stopping at a stop sign or speeding. But when compared to them having no peers or no social influence within that car, there was perfect driving. Second, conformity to drugs and alcohol. The CDC states that 30% of teenagers drink. This shows that teenagers have prevalent access to alcohol and are partaking in this. Hollywood depicts the glorification of drugs and alcohol. This is seen within their movies, depicting where alcohol and drugs are used in a light fashion or used in a way that is shown for them having fun. An example of this is in the famous movie Project X. The main character in this movie is called Thomas. Thomas succumbs to the influence of peer pressure through holding a big party. At this party, a lot of people attend, and through this, there's a lot of drugs and alcohol that also come. Previously sober and influenced by friends, Thomas decides to partake in drugs. The party spirals out of hand, eventually leading to the crashing and burning of the house. What we get from this is Oliveira Floric, in a study in 2020, found where introduction of friends to the usage of drugs has increased. She states that alcohol, cigarettes, and marijuana usage with the introduction of friends or peers at maybe like a place of gathering, like a party, like in the case of Thomas, it seemed that it was heavily increased. We see the items, we see teenagers conforming to drugs just as Thomas did. Then we have conformity with clothing, and this is how you dress. Fred Davis, an author with spirituality and psychological thinking, states that wearing your clothes is not just a visual statement. It's supposed to be said to everybody. It's supposed to say who you are verbally. Maybe not you specifically saying it, but what the clothes are, they are saying it. 8 Porteous researched that fashion capitals, like places in New York, Milan, Paris, and London, all have high amounts of social media output. What does this say? This means that people are looking at clothes and being like, wow, all these places that are famous, like London, Paris, and Milan, are all showing everybody that these clothes are what you should be wearing. And we see that with the companies too of ultra fast fashion. Rachel Monroe, who wrote the stimulus packet for ultra fast fashion, states that with social media, there was a common thing called the outfit of the day. This is having teenagers, mainly females, these teenagers would wear the different outfits every day to show everybody visually that this is what they're wearing. And this is conformity with major ultra fast fashion companies such as Zara, Shein, Boohoo. Back to Federal Davis, like I've been saying, this is only promoting what you're visually looking at, not what you're wearing, because you're only trying to visually conform with everybody else. For a counter, many of the academic success within teenagers is seen through because of support from things like parents and their friends. This is stated by Rajesh Mushroom. Kathy Du, who wrote the stimulus package on neurosensitivity, states that neurosensitivity to conflicting attitudes supports greater conformity towards positive over negative influence in early adolescence. Both of these claims are connected to countering how teens will follow positive influence and not the negative influence. A refute to this. Firstly, not all teenagers are privileged enough to have those positive influence, whether that's through their peers, whether that's through family members, and things like that. Therefore, we see that not all teens don't have this. And teens will still follow their peers, even though they may have positive influence. Leah O'Brien, a researcher with psychology, states that numbers of risky behavior increased 50% with friends being in the equation. These risky behaviors, as like previously stated, could be things like driving or things like partaking in drugs or alcohol. Thirdly, Andy Murk for the University of California argues that the limbic system, which is another part of your brain which controls impulsivity, is fully developed in this time. And as I said before, the prefrontal cortex is not developed in this time. Therefore, the things that are controlling teenagers now are impulses, not perfect logical thinking. How can this stop? Well, kids with stronger parental influences, just as stated in the counter, will more than likely have more immunity to things like peer pressure. John Hoffer stated how negative parenting can lead to higher aggression and a damage of identity. This shows that as a solution to fighting against peer pressure and keeping your own identity and not succumbing to social conformity with teenagers is to have parents built in from an early age that these kids can be themselves, that these kids should not conform to others around them. Thank you.
We're actually going to clap after the questions. So, Zach, what information did you need that you couldn't find for your paper or locate?
One thing that I think would be really interesting to look at was specifically, can I go to the slide?
Sure.
Was with the slide of drugs and alcohol. I think it would be really interesting because I'm talking about a movie that focuses on a party and how the characters are partaking in drugs. I think it would be interesting to look at how statistics of how much influence alcohol has in a party to partake in that. Things with like drugs at a party, how much increase of that drugs just at a party will increase the chance to partake in that.
Okay. And then what additional questions emerged from your research and why are these questions important?
An additional question that emerged from my research is how can things like fashion be targeted to females? Because within ultra fast fashion, Rachel Monroe found that the outfit of the day was mainly used by females and how females were mainly targeted through these ads like fashion. What is the difference between females versus males that's affecting females more than males? So,
okay. Thank you.